Wayne Rooney's story is not just one of goals, trophies and broken records, but of turbulence, temptation and relentless public scrutiny. He rose from the streets of Croxteth to become England's golden boy before he was even old enough to legally drink. But fame arrived quickly, violently almost, and with it came a spotlight that never dimmed. Every mistake became a headline, every weakness a national debate. Rooney was never just a footballer. He became a symbol of raw talent colliding with human flaws. His life unfolded in front of cameras, tabloids, and millions of critics who watched him as intensely off the pitch as on it. And today, we're diving into the full story. The brilliance, the controversies, the storms he faced, and the resilience that defined him. Before we go further, if you enjoy honest, in-depth football stories like this, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you the full truth behind the legends. By the age of 16, Rooney had already shaken the Premier League. That thunderbolt against Arsenal in 2002 wasn't just a goal, it was an announcement. England had found its next superstar. Manchester United quickly secured his signature in 2004, but even that move sparked controversy. As a boyhood Everton fan who once said, "Once a blue, always a blue," his departure felt like betrayal to many supporters. Some burned his shirt, others called him disloyal. But Rooney was a teenager stepping into a global machine, and loyalty, in modern football, often bows to ambition and opportunity. The transfer fee, massive for such a young player, only intensified scrutiny. Every touch of the ball was analysed, every interview dissected. Expectations were suffocating. And yet, he delivered almost instantly, scoring a hat-trick on his Champions League debut for Manchester United. It felt like destiny was unfolding, perfectly. But while his football career accelerated at an extraordinary pace, his personal life was moving just as quickly, and not always in the right direction. In 2004, the first major scandal hit. Reports emerged that Rooney had visited a brothel multiple times. He was only 18. The headlines were brutal. For many fans, the shock wasn't just the act itself, but the contrast between the teenage prodigy image and the adult controversy. It was the first moment people realised Rooney's rise to fame came without the emotional maturity to navigate it. The tabloids feasted, and his relationship with Colleen McLaughlin, his childhood sweetheart, was thrust into unwanted attention. Colleen stood by him, at least publicly. Their relationship had begun long before the fame, long before the money, when they were simply teenagers in Liverpool. But the scandal planted seeds of doubt and distrust that would follow them for years. Fame magnifies mistakes, and Rooney's errors were no longer private missteps. They were national conversation points. Yet on the pitch, he kept scoring, kept fighting, kept proving his worth to Manchester United. As his career soared, so did his temper. Rooney played with raw emotion, sometimes too much of it. His aggression was part of what made him extraordinary, fearless, relentless, unwilling to back down. But it also led to moments that haunted him. The most infamous came during the 2006 World Cup. England faced Portugal in the quarter-finals. Tensions were high. Rooney stamped on Ricardo Carvalho during a heated exchange. Cristiano Ronaldo, his Manchester United teammate, was seen urging the referee to act. The red card came swiftly. Rooney walked off, fury and disbelief etched across his face. England were eliminated. The nation debated whether he had let his country down. For some, he was a passionate competitor who lost control in the heat of battle. For others, he was reckless at the worst possible moment. That incident would follow him for years. Back home, club success continued. Premier League titles, Champions League glory in 2008, individual awards. He became Manchester United's all-time leading scorer, England's record goalscorer. Vith's statistics were undeniable, but so was the pattern of turbulence off the field. In 2010, another bombshell exploded. Reports surfaced that Rooney had engaged in an affair with a sex worker while Colleen was pregnant with their first child. The timing made it even more explosive. Public sympathy leaned heavily toward Colleen. Rooney issued apologies. Sponsors wavered. The image of England's family man shattered again. For many observers, it wasn't just a lapse in judgment, it was a repeated pattern. Questions were asked about maturity, about loyalty, about the pressures of fame. Yet once more, Colleen chose to stay. The phrase, "they're a team," would later become central to how she described their marriage. Behind the headlines, there were conversations, confrontations, and efforts to rebuild trust. But the tabloids never allowed the story to fade completely. Rooney's private life became part of his public identity. Every late night, every rumour, every photo taken in a bar became potential front-page material. Alcohol soon became another recurring theme. Rooney had long enjoyed nightlife, but as he entered his 30s, images began to circulate more frequently. In 2016, pictures emerged of him appearing intoxicated at the England team hotel during an international break. Critics questioned his professionalism. Was he losing discipline? Was the hunger fading? Supporters defended him, arguing that players were entitled to downtime. Then came 2017. Rooney, back at Everton after leaving Manchester United, was arrested for drink driving. He was found behind the wheel of a woman's car while over the legal limit. The headlines returned with force. He later pleaded guilty and received a driving ban and community service. It was another public apology, another chapter in a narrative that seemed impossible to escape. Each scandal chipped away at his image, but not at his footballing legacy. He remained one of England's greatest ever players. Yet there was always a sense that his career carried more drama than necessary. The fiery temper, the off-field mistakes, the tabloid battles. They created a complicated portrait. He was neither villain nor saint, but deeply human in ways that superstars often try to hide. The Agatha Christie saga in 2022 reignited public fascination with the Rooney household. Though Wayne was not directly responsible for the legal battle between Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy, the case unfolded against the backdrop of years of tabloid obsession surrounding Wayne's private life. His past controversies were frequently referenced as part of the larger media circus. Colleen's calm, calculated handling of that case contrasted sharply with Wayne's impulsive public history. It highlighted the different ways they navigated fame. Where Wayne often reacted emotionally, Colleen appeared measured and strategic. Yet through it all, they presented a united front. The narrative shifted from scandal to survival. Rooney's on-field volatility gradually mellowed as he aged. The explosive teenager evolved into a deeper-lying playmaker. The reckless challenges became rarer. Experience replaced raw fury. But the red card in 2006 remained a defining image, replayed in documentaries and highlight reels whenever England's near misses were discussed. His managerial career began under similar scrutiny. Every defeat brought whispers about whether past habits might resurface. Yet those who worked closely with him often described a different man, focused, thoughtful, determined to learn. Fatherhood appeared to anchor him. The wild prodigy was now raising 4 sons of his own. Looking back, Rooney's controversies tell a story about early fame colliding with working-class roots and global expectation. He was never media-trained into bland perfection. He spoke bluntly. He reacted emotionally. He lived visibly. That authenticity made him relatable to many and frustrating to others. The brothel visits of 2004 painted him as immature. The 2010 affair framed him as reckless. The 2017 drink-driving arrest labelled him irresponsible. But alongside those headlines were acts of loyalty to clubs, extraordinary performances in crucial matches, and years of commitment to the England badge. Few players have carried the weight of national expectation as long as Rooney did. From teenage prodigy to record-breaking veteran, he remained central to England's hopes for over a decade. And with that spotlight came scrutiny that magnified every flaw. Colleen's repeated public forgiveness became part of the narrative too. Some criticised her. Others admired her resilience. But she consistently described their relationship as a partnership, a team facing challenges together. It suggested that behind the public chaos, there was private work being done to repair and rebuild. Rooney's career forces an uncomfortable question. Can we separate genius from imperfection? Football history is filled with icons whose personal lives were messy, complicated, even self-destructive. Rooney's mistakes unfolded in the social media age, where forgiveness is harder to earn and memory never fades. His red card in 2006 no longer defines him the way it once did. Instead, he is remembered for bicycle kicks in Manchester derbies, for relentless work rate, for breaking scoring records that once seemed untouchable. Time has softened some judgments, yet the controversies remain part of the full story. They shaped public perception. They tested his marriage. They challenged his professionalism. They forced growth. And perhaps that growth is the most overlooked chapter. Rooney never tried to present himself as flawless. His apologies were often blunt, sometimes awkward, but rarely scripted into corporate perfection. That rawness mirrored the way he played football, direct, intense, sometimes reckless. As he transitioned into management, he carried the lessons of those turbulent years. Interviews suggested reflection, even regret. The headlines that once screamed scandal slowly shifted to discussions of tactics and rebuilding projects. In many ways, Rooney's life illustrates the double-edged sword of early superstardom. Extraordinary talent can open every door, but it also removes privacy, magnifies temptation, and exposes immaturity on a global stage. Through it all, he remained one of the most gifted players England has ever produced. His goal-scoring record, for both club and country, stood as proof that despite chaos, the talent never dimmed. The boy from Croxteth, who stunned Arsenal at 16, became a man who weathered storms that might have broken others. The scandals did not erase his achievements, they complicated them. Today, Wayne Rooney's legacy is layered. Hero to many, frustration to some, a cautionary tale to others, but undeniably one of the defining figures of his generation. And perhaps that is the most honest way to remember him. Not as a headline, not as a single mistake, but as a footballer whose brilliance and flaws existed side by side, inseparable, human, and unforgettable.